A company's collapse rarely comes as a thunderbolt from a clear sky. More often, it's a slow unraveling, hidden in plain sight, camouflaged by the rhythms of business as usual. For investors, employees, and communities, the stakes are enormous. Fortunes can vanish overnight. Careers are upended. Even entire industries can be jolted. Yet time and again we ask, how did nobody see it coming? The mystery isn't just why these collapses happen, but how warning signs can be so obvious, yet so widely ignored. To understand this phenomenon, we have to look at how faith in a business is built. Every success story starts with a compelling narrative, a leader with vision, a product that promises to change the game. The early days are filled with energy. Investors line up, eager to get a piece of the future. Employees buy into the mission, convinced they're part of something bigger than themselves. Take any high-profile company that soared before its fall. The early wins weren't illusions. They were real, record-breaking growth, innovative products, glowing headlines. The numbers dazzled, and the story made sense. People bought in because the signals were all positive, and the feedback loop was self-reinforcing. When a business is on the rise, optimism is contagious. Doubt feels like heresy. But beneath the surface, something else is at work. Every business carries risk, but some hide flaws that are structural, not cyclical. Maybe the growth is fueled by debt that quietly piles up, just out of sight. Maybe the business model depends on a single, volatile source of revenue. Sometimes, the flaw is cultural, a culture that rewards short-term wins over long-term sustainability, or leadership that values loyalty over competence. These cracks don't show up in quarterly earnings. They're buried in footnotes, obscured by jargon, or dismissed as growing pains. What's striking is how these flaws are often visible to those willing to look closely. In retrospect, the warning signs seem obvious: accounting irregularities, executive turnover, or an overcomplicated product nobody fully understands. But when optimism is high and incentives are strong, it's easy to look away. Confirmation bias takes hold. The story is too good to question. Then comes the trigger. Sometimes it's a market shock, a sudden drop in demand, a new competitor, or a regulatory change. Other times, it's internal. A whistleblower, a failed product launch, or a liquidity crunch that exposes how little cash is actually on hand. The flaw that once seemed manageable suddenly becomes existential. Doubts spread. Stakeholders who once cheered from the sidelines start asking hard questions. Rehook. The collapse rarely happens all at once. First, there's denial. Executives assure investors that everything is under control. Employees are told to stay the course. But as the reality sets in, trust evaporates. Stock prices tumble. Creditors tighten terms. Customers look elsewhere. Partners pull back. The company scrambles for lifelines, asset sales, layoffs, restructuring. Sometimes a savior emerges. More often, the business enters a death spiral. The power dynamic shifts almost overnight. The narrative flips from triumph to tragedy, and the same voices that once praised the company now dissect its downfall. For those who lived through it, the aftermath is sobering. Careers are derailed. Investors absorb losses. Communities that depended on the company face uncertainty. The lessons are dissected in boardrooms, classrooms, and documentaries like this one. Yet the cycle repeats. New companies rise, new narratives take hold, and new flaws are overlooked. So what can we learn from these collapses that unfold in plain sight? The first lesson is humility. No business is invincible. The bigger the success, the more important it is to look for what's missing, not just what's working. Scrutiny isn't cynicism, it's a safeguard. The second lesson is that incentives matter. When everyone benefits from believing the story, skepticism becomes scarce. Reward questions, not just results. And finally, remember that complexity is often the enemy of transparency. If something seems too good or too complicated to be true, it deserves a closer look. The anatomy of a business collapse is never simple, but the warning signs are rarely invisible. They're just easy to ignore until it's too late. If you found this insightful, consider subscribing for more stories on the business forces shaping our world.